Hi, welcome to HexCon20. I'm Steef Jan Wiggers and I'm going to talk about leveraging the Microsoft Cloud Platform, which in this case is Azure, and this is one of the leading public cloud vendors. So in my talk, I'm going to a little bit talk about some of the context about cloud computing. I'm going to talk in particular about Microsoft Azure, some of the solutions you can land on workloads on top of this cloud platform, and how you potentially can get started, whether you're all the way at the beginning, in the middle, or more at the end. So I'll give you some tips, some leads, what you can look into when it comes to onboarding or having start your cloud journey on the Microsoft Azure Cloud Platform. So how do we came to where we are today? So this basically, it all involves cloud computing. And the drivers of cloud computing, basically, one is, mobile devices. So this could be, in the beginning, there was much as telephones, like mobile phones, but then, of course, you had devices like iPad and even wearables like an Apple Watch or, other vendors also providing watches and other devices. And then the other thing is the rise of software as a service companies that provide solutions that you just can tap in and start using. One of the things, of course, is Microsoft Office 365, but there's also like Salesforce, CRM, and there's many other of those. And then again, also, with cloud computing, it was also the rise of public cloud vendors like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, and basically building data centers and using all that compute power to provide solutions to you. And it started off with simple storage solutions and virtual machines all the way up to platform as a service and etc. So we're going to talk about this. So you might have your data centers on-prem, and then of course everything was on-prem. So basically all the responsibilities were in your hands. But then with the, infrastructure as a service and platform as a service and even software as a service, all these capabilities that are provided to you by the public cloud vendors or other vendors, meaning kind of a shift of responsibilities. So with IaaS, it's more like, okay, you land your virtual machines and then you just partially are responsible for the virtual machine, but virtualization, servers, storage, networking, a lot of those kind of responsibilities are taken away from you. So which means you have to less worry about this, meaning you can focus more on some of the other types. You can even push this further on with platform as a service, where the responsibility is more geared towards the public cloud vendor, and then you're just worried about application and data and access to it. And then you can completely leverage software as a service solutions where the whole responsibility of the complete stack is within, the vendor of that solution. And then you just log in, use the solution, and just pay as you go. What are the benefits of the cloud? There could be many drivers, or you can even start finding you're on a cloud journey already, or it could be that you're starting to formulate a strategy how you can embrace the cloud. So, and this could be the flexibility and capacity. So instead of, using a lot of hardware in your data center that just sits idle, or maybe you don't have enough resources when there's certain spikes, then you can have this, capability in the cloud. You just rent it. So you can turn on and off your services, and also the scalability is easier to provide for you. This can also be that it could be less hassle-free with regards to cost, right? So, you could be freed of some capital expenditure or upfront investment. Or even if you're a startup, right, you can straight away leverage compute from the cloud instead of first procurement of services, etc. Then the other thing is the availability. With all the data centers in the world, and they're spread around the globe in what's called Azure regions, you can get that, compute available right next to you, and with uptime and less latency, etc. The other thing is, because you just efficiently utilize that compute, means also that you can reduce the carbon footprint. The other thing is easy manageability, because out of the box you get a lot of capabilities of using the compute that is in the cloud. So you can have central administration, all the infrastructure is managed for you. So this makes it a lot easier. So there are a couple of public cloud vendors. So these are, AWS, Microsoft Azure, the Google Cloud Platform, IBM Cloud, and Alibaba Cloud. And the reason I'm mentioning these is because they're kind of the top 5 when it comes to market share and revenue. And this comes to express if you look at some of their regions and availability zones. So availability zones are just, these isolated data centers within a region with their own power, etc. But then rise, or at least enhance, the scalability, but also the availability of your workloads. So those are availability zones that reside in regions. And if you look at this picture, you see that AWS, which is the market leader, has 24 regions and 77 availability zones. And then you have Microsoft Azure that has the most regions of all the public cloud providers, a little bit less availability zone, but they're still building on more and more of these data centers. So you will see the rise of availability zone in that areas too. And then you get the Google Cloud Platform, IBM Cloud, and Alibaba. So each have their regions and availability zones. Where Alibaba is more residing in Europe and China, while AWS and Microsoft Azure and Google kind of span the whole globe with their regions and availability zones. Let's have a look at Microsoft Azure. So we're going to focus a little bit more on what this particular cloud platform has to offer. So their regions, coming back to this, are basically globally spread around, as you can see in this slide. So you can see multiple in Europe, in the US, South America, South Africa, you see Australia, Asia. So they're spread around globally, and they have kind of the most regions to compare to any other cloud provider. So, and then even some are government issued kind of data center because of the security and compliance. And that's also where you see regions a lot in Europe because of compliancy and regulations where data cannot leave the country borders. And then, on each data center basically provides many services. This can range from compute, from containers, security, providing hybrid solutions, storage, web, management, governance. There are so many services. Most of the data centers have many of these services. Some have less of these services. But there are some services which are called Ring 0 services and available anywhere around the globe in any region. For instance, a Cosmos database, which is a NoSQL database. But there are so many services that you can leverage out of the box, which are managed services. So, with that said, you might be somewhere in your cloud journey, or you might want to onboard on a cloud journey, or you're formulating some kind of cloud strategy. Now, if we look at the landscape from yesterday, so early on, before really cloud computing came to a rise, which was around, 10, 15 years ago, before that, kind of your whole application and everything and your compute was residing on-prem. But that, the change and the rise of cloud computing and the public cloud vendors and software as a services, you see hybrid type of scenarios where you have applications in the cloud which you might want to build your solutions on or integrate with, but you still also have applications residing on-prem. And then if you look where we're heading to, basically a lot of that compute and business and integrations with these systems and your solutions going to reside basically ultimately in the cloud. Unless there's very short, low latency required, for instance, on the stock market, you might see some data centers still on-prem or your applications still on-prem. But predominantly, we're moving the direction of having everything basically in the cloud or on edge or boxed in an appliance and then back on-prem again, which are called stack type of solutions. So then you have your cloud infrastructure inside an appliance box with everything in there, and which you can still then run inside, your company, let's say in your hospital, and you can even operate still without the connection to the internet. So those developments are there as well. So let's also look at some of these solution architectures with regards to Microsoft Azure and all the capabilities that they offer. So the list could be extensive. I could potentially maybe even talk for hours when it comes to all types of solutions, but just to have a look at some of these. So one, of course, is called Internet of Things Technology, Service and Solutions, and those are depicted here, where Microsoft offers a range of capabilities allowing you to build IoT type solutions, or maybe set up a complete end-to-end solutions where you connect your devices, where you ingest data, where you can store that data, analyze it, and then visualize it. So there's many of these capabilities available. A lot of these solutions reside on the connectivity, on ingesting data, learning from the data, analyzing the data, to even visualizing the data. And these can be, in various branches. So depicted here, there's an IoT Central type of solution. That's a SaaS solution providing you the capability of building up end-to-end solutions for your business. And as an example, I've got an example IoT use case, which is from the Microsoft Architecture website, which shows you, a type of solution where you connect your devices through IoT Hub. So the IoT Hub is a capability of allowing you to register services so you can have those connected and then set up to push telemetry data towards the cloud. So this could be pushed to, let's say, Azure Databricks, which can real-time process that type of data, push some of the results into capabilities of storage, which could be Azure SQL Data Warehouse, Cosmos DB, or SQL Server, which potentially then resides there that can be used to visualize in dashboards using Power BI, which is a part of the Microsoft Cloud. And then ultimately, you can also interact with that data through web APIs or web application, depending on how you further want to utilize that data for insights, etc. So this is a type of an IoT use case, leveraging some of the services that you can find in Azure. Going forward, so I talked a little bit about this too. Today, you still have applications or machines on-prem, or maybe they're running somewhere disconnected or on the edge side, and this is where technologies from hybrid, stack, and edge come into play. So these are kind of technologies that Microsoft puts in place to basically manage your capabilities residing on different areas, whether it's on-prem or disconnected or on the edge, or even have that capability set up to interact with on-prem and cloud, which is kind of the hybrid type solutions. So again, if you look at the Microsoft website, there's many kind of solution architecture, and this is kind of a hybrid use case. So you could have a large group of people using a web app, but that web app is kind of situated partially on Azure, but partially also on-prem, where you can divide that load or even sync up between those services and apps, which you can see here. So this is kind of a solution where you can leverage partially the cloud and also partially what you have running on-prem, and have traffic manager route traffic to both cases. Then you have something like Azure Security. So Azure Security is widespread, embedded into the Azure platform in many ways, whether it's generic services like the Azure Security Center, whether it's something like Azure Active Directory, providing identity and access, whether it's encryption and rest through storage type of security measures, networking ways with, like a firewall, application gateway, network security groups, that kind of stuff. Capabilities. Then you have something like a backup and disaster recovery capabilities available, but also capabilities to secure your data in your databases, whether those are NoSQL or SQL databases that you need to provide. You can even have a database type of firewall preventing that, direct access to your database, and so on. Looking at this, and this is where, for instance, HexNode have a mobile device management type of solution, which can be integrated to Azure Active Directory to potentially set up security for this product, leveraging the Azure Active Directory capability. So this means that through that Azure Active Directory, also multi-factor authentication can be supported, and this way that product, HexNode MDM, can be integrated with Azure Active Directory. So this is one of the other drivers of the cloud, that some of the solutions that are being built by diverse companies leverage some of the components which reside in the public cloud platforms, like Azure, for instance. And then you have data and AI. So this is another trending in cloud computing when it comes to machine learning, artificial intelligence, bot services, providing services for people so they can ask simple questions before they're being routed to a customer service desk employee that can further help them. Cognitive services, leveraging to use to scan images, text, etc., and machine learning models that you can leverage to get some type of information out of your data. And for this is another data AI type of use case that you can find on the website, Microsoft website, our Architecture Center. Again, basically you upload some images. These images are being stored in blob storage, ultimately leading to an event which is centrally pushed to what's called an event grid service, then triggers a function which subsequently can call the computer vision API. And the result of that are being stored in a Cosmos database. So again, this is a use case where images are being analyzed. And the image analysis is one of the capabilities you find through cognitive services. Okay, so let's have a look at this type of solution. So what I will demonstrate is showcase that I have an image which I will push to the Microsoft Cognitive Services as a reference, just because I want to compare other cloud providers have similar type of services when it comes to cognitive or many of the other things I just mentioned. So it's not just that Microsoft Azure does stand out with its innovative character and with lots of its services, but so do the others. And just as a comparison, I will show you this. So this is a picture of a person which I loaded up, and I'm going to send this picture to the cloud, similar to what I showed you in the other use case I explained. So once you send out a picture, that could be coming a result back, which is some of the characteristics of this picture, but also looking at this picture and depicting what the age range would be for this particular person. There's some emotions being laid out with regards to this person with a certain confidentiality. So like if she's angry, well, there's a slight chance she might be, but that's not the case. There's some other traits which are depicted in the response of this. This is the Amazon recognition service. So I can feed the same picture to Microsoft Vision API. And then in this case, it will, for instance, say the gender, and it's pretty certain it's a female. It gives a direct, assessment of what the age is, or at least it tries to. Again, there's some other traits which are depicted in this type of result. And then you have the Google Vision API. It doesn't do gender or give you an age back, but it gives you some other type. So it will describe, okay, there's hair in the picture, certain assessment of beauty, etc. So it's a different type of service, also providing you with some of the results. And these are just cognitive capabilities you can find in various cloud, but also in Microsoft Azure, which together with Amazon Recognition does a pretty good job. So this was a demo just to show you the capability of what you can derive from the cloud. So you don't have to build this API, you don't have to train a model. This is just as an API available in the cloud, which you can leverage at a certain cost. Okay, you might now think, okay, you told a little bit about the cloud, you gave some context around what cloud computing could be and what these cloud providers do and what type of innovative solution you can do. Even the product that HexNode provides, integrates or leverages some of the Azure capabilities similar to what I just showed you with cognitive services. But, how do I get started? What's the starting point? Depending on where your organization is. So if you just want to try out the Azure platform, you can just subscribe and then you get some credits, and then you can try some of these services out with some of the guidance. That's very easy and straightforward, similar to other cloud providers, providing you some credits and availability to try out the cloud computing capabilities you find in Microsoft Azure. But then again, if you're further in your cloud journey, or you want to set up a certain cloud strategy, or you want to know how to adopt the cloud, Microsoft kind of provides the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure for you. So giving you guidance how you can embrace and start and using the cloud, whether it's completely greenfield, starting from scratch, or whether it's more brownfield, where you might migrate some of your capabilities you have in your data center, or even move your data center resources completely into the cloud. So migration strategy, so brownfield and greenfield, it's all available through this cloud adoption framework. Going forward, so once you have landed on top of Azure, so you've set it up, you use landing zones, etc. So you completely set up your Azure data center, basically, because you moved all your assets maybe all the way up to the cloud. Then you can start building solutions, and there's some guidance there too when it comes to building those solutions and looking at operation of excellence, performance, reliability, looking at the security aspects, and also cost optimization. So there's many information out there, similar to other cloud providers who also have well-architected frameworks in place for you to leverage the cloud, following the best practices of the cloud provider, and in this case, it's from Microsoft. So if you look at the best practices when it comes to your workload, again, you can look at some of the cost optimizations, whether it is like, hey, Do I want to shut down my resources from time to time, depending on the availability, when, maybe you want to have your virtual machines with your applications up and running only during business hours. You can leverage, like for long term, do reserved instances. The other factor you can bring is looking at operation excellence. So you automate all your deployments of your solutions. You might leverage some of the monitoring capabilities that are available in Azure. When it comes to performance and efficiency, you can design your solutions for scaling depending on the scalability you want. This can be set up per individual services, or there's guidance towards it. Then again, you find this for security. So Microsoft adheres to security in depth, depending on all the way up to the front, to all the way to the application, to the data, etc. And these are guidance available, and all kinds of services that can help you with this. So whether it's accessing to the data, when it's accessing the Azure resources for the portal, etc. This can all be managed and set up in the cloud, and there's guidance for it when using the well-architected framework. The other thing you can leverage from the cloud provider Microsoft Azure in this case are design patterns, which gives you tons of design patterns when it comes to resiliency, performance and scalability, data management, availability, and so forth, integration, security. Many of the patterns are available, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just look these up because they're available on the platform, on the website. So you can, dive in and read into this, or you can ask a partner to help you in this, but also you can have some background knowledge in what they're trying to achieve. Which brings me to the Microsoft partner. So it might be that in your cloud journey, you're not ready yet, or you're seeking a partner to help you embrace the cloud, go on the cloud journey, help you, adopt it through the cloud adoption framework, etc. So depending on your workload and needs, you somehow maybe want to leverage the cloud, or you maybe want to move your assets into the cloud and benefit of what the cloud can offer for you, in this case, Microsoft Azure. What's important in that is that if you don't have all the knowledge or experience yourself, you can find one or more partners that can help you. And you're particularly going to look for partners that have a good track record and kind of have, these gold labels depending on your workloads and needs. There's no partner that has a gold standard in anything like security, architecture, integration, when it comes to development, etc. Usually you might be looking for one or for multiple partners helping you out, depending on your needs and workloads. The other thing is you can easily get training. So Microsoft, for all these services, have their learning, on-demand training available for you through Microsoft Learn. Then again, you can also get training from Microsoft partners that are very specified in it, or really have set a good track record in that. And then there's other means of on-demand training through edX, Coursera, Pluralsight, Udemy, Cloud Guru. There's many out there too. So you don't have to be afraid that there's no learning capability or resources available online. So these takeaways with regards to Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure is one of the leading cloud platforms. It's in the top 3 together with Google and Amazon. All 3 of them are in constant competition. Over all these services I mentioned, they just, keep looking at each other, keep innovating, keep investing, and try to get as much businesses and enterprises on top of their platform to leverage what they have to offer. And if you want to embrace the cloud, or at least have a cloud journey and decided to go for Microsoft Azure, then, if you're not proficient enough or you're lacking knowledge left and right, go find the right Microsoft partner. There's many out there that can help you set on your journey, or maybe when it comes to machine learning and you don't have that capability in-house or at least the knowledge, find a partner that can help you with that. The other way is the Microsoft partner can even help you integrate with some of the services, like HexCon20 did with Azure Active Directory. Or maybe you do it yourself. The other thing is follow the best practice and guidance available. So there's tons of it available on the Microsoft website, and even partners can point you out to it. It's don't that you have to reinvent the wheel. All the information is out there and available. And then in the end, depending on your own experience and knowledge of the cloud, or maybe through the partner, choose the correct solution for your workloads. And again, the architecture capabilities of the architecture website of Microsoft can give you guidance in that area as well. Which brings me to thanking you for attending this session, a little bit more overview session on the Microsoft Cloud Platform, what it could potentially mean to you or how you can onboard on the journey going forward to be successful on Microsoft Azure. So I want to thank you for attending again and enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye.